You ever stop and think about how circles are just everywhere? I mean, really think about it. From planets way out in space down to the tiniest things we use every day, this one perfect shape is hiding a universal secret. It's a number, actually, that connects every single circle in existence. So let's go find it.
Right off the bat, we see them in our best moments. You know, our celebrations. The pizza you share with your family, the balloons at a party. They're simple, they're everywhere, and they're all perfectly round. And get this, they're also the reason we can get anywhere. The wheels on your bike, on a car, you name it. The circle is what makes movement possible. It's what turns the idea of travel into a reality. We literally measure our lives in circles, the face of a clock, right? It's just a circular journey that our day takes, ticking off the hours, minutes, and seconds, and pretty much guiding us through everything we do. And of course, they're in the most ordinary parts of our day. The plate you eat your dinner off of. Super simple, totally functional, and, you guessed it, a perfect circle. So, from that pizza to a planet, from a tiny little coin to a massive Ferris wheel, what's the deal? What's the hidden code that links them all? Well, that's the secret we're about to crack. Okay, so to unlock this secret, we've got to learn the language of the circle first. We need to break it down into its basic parts. Let's take a look at the anatomy of this thing.
Everything, and I mean everything, starts right here, at the center. You can think of it as the heart of the circle. It's a single point that holds the whole shape together, where every single point on the outer edge is the exact same distance away. Now that distance from the center to the edge, it's got a name. It's called the radius. This is probably the most fundamental measurement for figuring out how big a circle is. So what happens if you draw a straight line from one edge of the circle right through the center to the other side? That's the diameter. It's the widest possible line you can draw inside the circle. And here's where it all clicks together. The radius, remember, goes halfway across. The diameter goes all the way across. So the big takeaway here is this. The diameter is always, and I mean always, exactly 2 times the length of the radius. Simple as that. Okay, one last piece to our puzzle, the circumference. Imagine you took a piece of string and wrapped it perfectly around the outside edge of a circle. The length of that string, that's your circumference. It's the total distance around. All right, now that we know all the lingo, let's get our hands dirty. How do you even draw a perfect circle? Well, to really test our ideas, we need a tool. And believe it or not, you can make a pretty good one right at home. Seriously, this is super easy. First, just pin a piece of paper to some cardboard. That push pin, that's your center point. Next, grab some string and loop it around the pin and a pencil. And here's the really cool part. The length of that string is now your radius. So just keep that string tight, swing the pencil around, and boom, you've just drawn a mathematically perfect circle. Okay, we've got the vocabulary down, we've got our tool ready to go. It is time for the main event. We are officially on the hunt for that universal secret I mentioned. And it turns out, the answer has been hiding in plain sight this whole time. You know, the beautiful thing about this secret is that it works on any circle. You don't need a fancy science lab. You can test it on something as simple as a dinner plate. So here, we're just taking a measuring tape and carefully wrapping it around the outside to get that circumference. Which brings us to the big multi-million-dollar question. What happens when you take that distance around the circle, the circumference, and you divide it by the distance across the circle, the diameter? What number do you get? Any guesses? So let's look at our numbers. For this plate, the circumference measured 33 inches. The diameter was 10.5 inches. So you punch that into a calculator. 33 divided by 10.5, and you get a very, very famous number, 3.14. And that number is pi, which we write with the Greek letter pi. This is it. This is the secret. It doesn't matter how big or small the circle is. It could be a tiny little button, or it could be the sun. If you divide its circumference by its diameter, the answer is always pi. It is a universal constant literally woven into the fabric of reality. How cool is that? Now, this discovery wasn't made yesterday. It's actually part of a timeless human quest for knowledge, one that's been building for thousands of years, all based on our curiosity about the world. Let's rewind the clock a bit, like over 2,500 years. We're going back to ancient Greece, to a mathematician named Euclid. You might have heard of him as the father of geometry. He was one of the first people to really sit down and formally study shapes on flat surfaces, laying the groundwork for,
Well, everything we just talked about. And you know, the name geometry itself tells you the whole story. It comes from the Greek words geo for earth and metron for measurement. So at its core, geometry has always just been about measuring the world around us.
And that ancient mission is more important today than it has ever been. Those same principles that Euclid studied are now used to design skyscrapers, to map stars and planets, to create life-saving MRI machines, to program robots in video games, and even to analyze the perfect arc of a basketball shot. It's everywhere! Yeah, from the tiniest atom to the biggest star in the sky, those elegant, simple rules of the circle are always there, shaping the world as we know it.
So there you have it. The secret's out. Pi is the universal code that connects every circle. And now that you know it, the only question left is, where are you going to see it next?